Welcome to the Self-Publishing School podcast. This is the podcast to listen to if you're an aspiring writer or an author who wants to be more successful. On this show, you'll learn how to write and launch a book successfully, all from the top authors and people just like you who are doing it at the highest level. I'm your host, Chandler Bolt, the founder of Self-Publishing School, the author of the book called Published, and the CEO of selfpublishing.com. For free training on how to publish a book that sells 10,000 copies, go to selfpublishing.com/free training. Hey, Chandler Bolt here, and joining me today is Matt Faircloth. Matt is the co-founder and president of the DeRosa Group, which is a real estate investing company that specializes in buying and renovating residential commercial properties. All right. He's also the author of a book. It's called Raising Private Capital, Building Your Real Estate Empire Using Other People's Money. I was telling him beforehand, we've had really some just rock star real estate investing people on the show, whether it's AJ, good gosh, I'm drawing.
AJ Osborne, we were talking about.
AJ Osborne. Yep. Really great episode. Hayden Crabtree wrote a book, the Skip the Flip. So a lot of really good episodes on real estate investing. I'm excited to learn about this. Not only just the author side of things, but maybe a little bit, maybe one question on real estate investing at the end.
Sure.
We shall see.
Then as you
Matt,
want.
Thank you for coming. Thanks for being here.
You're welcome, Channel. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate you having this show, not with me, but just your program, because I believe that like writing a book is one of the best things that somebody could do to memorialize a bit of themselves and to get their voice out. And people say, oh, it's your personal business card for business or whatever. It's good, but it's also like a way to just kind of like get your story out there, or whatever it is you want to tell. And so I think that it's important for people to know how to write a book. And I commend you for this show and for what you do for authors, man, because not all of us know how to do what we do. I mean, writing that book 100%. Was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. And I commend businesses like yours that make it a bit easier, you know?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. Why a book, and why as a real estate investor did you decide to write the book, and how did you see that kind of fitting in with what you're trying to do with your business?
Well, I mean, to say why a book, it's funny, but like I wish I had a better answer than this, Chandler. But like I wanted to be one of the cool kids, one of the cool real estate investor thought leaders that has a book. I felt like I had something to tell, a story to tell. My book, Raising Private Capital, is about reaching into your own network and finding money. And there is a lot of money in our own networks for those that are investing in real estate. And there are plenty of people, especially today, that are looking for a better way to build their wealth, for a better place to put their money. And real estate has proven itself over and over and over and over again to be a great place, but people don't know how to look for it. And so I think that it was a necessary story to tell. And I thought, I mean, well, why did I choose to write a book? Because Bigger Pockets, my publisher, had been working with them for years, and they gave me the opportunity to. There are other book ideas I had, and Raising Private Capital was the one that they jumped on because they're a good how-to. They've read a lot of how-to books, right?
Yep.
And that. So I think just it all fit for them, for my partnership with them, for me to be an author, and for me to write something. I'd written a ton of blogs that I'd started to learn how to write a bit through doing that. So it just seemed like the next logical step. I had no idea what it entailed or how hard it was going to be, but it just seemed like a good idea at the time, I think.
So walk me through how that works. So how did Bigger Pockets find out about you and the topic of this book? What sparked that conversation, and ultimately, what made you say, hey, this sounds like a good deal, I'm going to go with them.
Sure.
In this book.
For those that are not familiar with Bigger Pockets, what they are is, I'd like to, the simplest way to call it is like they're like Facebook for real estate investors. They are a means for real estate investors to get connected to each other and to learn from each other and to post conversations. And they also have a podcast. They have a thriving YouTube community. They also, the way they monetize that enormous community they have is they, publish books. They have a paid membership community that you can be a part of. You can be a part of their free community too, in that. And the way they attract people to that community is by taking folks that are seasoned, air quote, that know what they're doing, or supposed to anyway, to write articles for them on their blog, right? And that just makes the site more Googleable and everything like that by me writing an article with a bunch of keywords in it. It makes it so you can notice the site, right? So I had been writing articles for them since 2013. And we found them when they were just getting going, when they were a rising resource of real estate investing. And so my wife and I happened to catch them when they were on the rise, and we wrote articles for them for years and years. Raising Private Capital was published in 2018. So I had been a blog writer for them for years, and I had been a regular podcast guest on their podcast. And I'd gotten into producing some YouTube for them and everything like that. We developed a level of trust with each other, and they knew I wasn't like a guru trying to sell coaching programs or like trying to sell snake oil or anything like that, that I really was just trying to help people above everything else. I was just trying to teach people a better way to invest in real estate, which is true. And so they saw that, and there was mutually amicable mission there, right? Because that's what they're about too. So it at the time they were trying to produce more authors. They had been going back through the same authors over and over and over again, and they wanted to expand that author base. And so it was a mutual coming to each other, that we were ready to write and they were ready to publish another book. And so we presented I presented 2 books they said no to, and then I presented Raising Private Capital and they liked it. And so that was, I suppose, how it came about.
Okay. What were the 2 that they said no to, and why do you think they said yes to this one?
Well, they said yes to this one because it's a how-to book, right? Okay. The other 2 were not. One was not a how-to. I'll explain, but one was not a how-to book, and one was speaking to a demographic that they didn't think exists. Now it does, and they may reconsider that one. But the book that was my favorite, which I don't think it's in line for the demographic. I still may write it, but it's just a collaboration of landlording stories, because Chandler, landlords are the most misunderstood profession out there. Everybody thinks that we're big fat cats with like a monocle, like the Monopoly guy, and we all make like billions of dollars with our pinky next to our mouth, and I'm sitting on the beach sipping Mai Tais while my tenants struggle, right? That and cancel rent and everything else, right? And I'm the son of a gun that won't let my tenant keep his German Shepherd that's bitten 3 people, but I won't let him keep it so that it bites a 4th person, right? But I'm the a-hole, right? So anyway, that's the story of how landlords were misunderstood. And I thought that a good book would be to tell true to life landlord stories, some heartwarming stories, just to tell our perspective of like, hey, listen, we actually do care about people, and we actually are not cyborg robots that are just about making money from everybody. We do care about humans. Most of us do. There are plenty of bad apples out there, but just like any other industry, there are shysters. And of course there's shyster landlords, but the shyster landlord's the only one that gets the spotlight, not the good one. And so this book would be to highlight good landlords. And also the other side of it, Chandler, being a landlord, you see absolute full spectrum of humanity. You see people that are down on their luck, that are your tenants, that are having major life changes. Then they put you right in the middle of it because they're paying their housing to you, and so they're going to tell you all about their personal issues they got going on and all that, and you may have to help them solve it. So you become their therapist, and you become their guidance counselor, you become their police officer sometimes, and you become all those things. And we also see some crazy things that would knock your socks off. So I've met multiple landlords that have stories that are truly seem unbelievable. So that's the book. But Bigger Pockets is maybe not the best outlet for that. I've talked to them about it, but they're a how-to organization, and I get it. So it's going to happen, but it may not be with them. Maybe, but might not be. So if anybody has any landlord stories, they can reach out to me. If you've got crazy landlord stories, let me know, because we want to compile them and tell a ton of our own. I've got some stuff that'll lay you down too, that'll be in that book. And the second one, briefly, is more and more married couples in America are working together as life partners, marriage, and also business partners in business, and merging those two. And so we wanted to do a book on working with your spouse, because my wife and I work together. So.
It's a great idea. I think there's definitely a demographic for that. Inside.
I take your word. You're the book dude, man. You think so, I think so.
So before we started interviewing, I think you mentioned something around 45,000 copies sold
Yes.
of this book. What are the top 2 to 3 things that have sold the most copies, and any tips for people who want to sell more copies of their books?
Sure. Well, I mean, it helps that the book got published by an organization with 2 million followers, right? Like, let's be straight. And so if there is a author out there that's looking to publish a book, I mean, it's great to publish your own book and keep all the revenue yourself, but you got to decide what you want. And I wanted my book to be in as many hands as I could, because it's a business card for myself, and it broadcasts the DeRosa Group, my company, and it broadcasts me, right? But I could have self-published, but it wouldn't have sold as many copies because of their following, right? In addition to that, I believe that what helped sell the book was, I hate to be like this, but not pound my chest, but it's a good book. I didn't phone it in. I didn't just have a ghostwriter write it for me. And I've read plenty of books written by friends of mine, and you could tell like a VA wrote it for them or something like that. Or that they like voice dictated it and somebody just tried to make it make sense and stuff like that. If you're going to write a book, make it good, man. I mean, we all have a good storyteller in us, but put some thought, don't try and like, just check the box. I wrote a book, because you could write a book and you're just going to kill another tree to put a book in somebody's hand. But with a little more effort, and that, you could write a really good book. Everybody can. And so I believe Raising Private Capital is a really good, and it's got tons of Amazon reviews or whatever. So it's I think maybe bordering on a great book. And I didn't realize it was going to be as such, but I think it is that, because I put a lot of concern and time. It took me 10 months to write it. Because I intentionally made sure every chapter was good. Right. Additionally, once it was
And how did you do that? What, any practical tips for people when you were going through the process of just like, that 10 months of, was there anything that you did to say, all right, cool, this took this from like a 6 out of 10 to a 9 out of 10 or whatever? Was there anything that you did that you feel like made the book better?
Well, yeah, okay, first of all, for a how-to book, you got to write an outline and I would assume that some folks that are listening to this are writing stories and novels or whatever, right? If you're going to do that, you kind of let the book be a living thing. And a how-to book is a living thing too, because my book has a lot of my personal story into it. And a lot of that got woven in. Now, the way I did it, to answer your question, was I wrote a good outline. And I kind of determined the things I wanted to talk about before I got in. And I also, if I felt like it was necessary to go down a rabbit hole, I did, because that's what makes, just detail is what makes a book good, right? Like, especially a how-to book like Raising Private Capital, you can't glaze over things, because people are reading a how-to book because they want to learn how to do it, right? So if you just glaze over something and say, oh yeah, you could loan your next door neighbor could loan you money for a real estate deal, next chapter. Right. Well, you could also go a lot deeper and talk about, well, how do you form that deal with your next door neighbor, and what do you do and what do you not do? What documents do you need in detail, to strike that deal? How do you exit from that deal with your next door neighbor, him loaning you money or her loaning you money, right? So Raising Private Capital gets very granular, as how-to books should. And so I think that, to answer your question, is I allowed the rabbit holes to happen, but inside of the framework of the outline, right? So I went deep where I could, but also stayed on message, so some of the chapters are very long because they get into like, okay, let's keep going. Yeah.
That's great. That's a really great tip.
Hey, Chandler Bolt here. I hope you're loving this episode so far. It's time to go from inspiration to implementation. All right, so if you've learned something, we want to help you implement what you've learned with your book. So what I want you to do right now is go to selfpublishing.com/schedule, book a publishing consultation with one of the experts on my team. We'll talk about your goals for your book, your dreams, your challenges, your next steps, and we'll start putting together a plan. All right, so go to selfpublishing.com/schedule, book a call with the team. Let's see how we can help with your book. It's time to implement.
And guys, if you want to learn more about outlining, I go into this in depth in my new book. It's called Published: The Proven Path from Blank Page to 10,000 Copies Sold. There is a chapter on outlining, and it is, gosh, I think it's chapter number 6. But what you're talking about is kind of is we talk about these milestones of writing a great book. It's kind of hard to see, but
That's
mind
awesome.
map, outline, rough draft, and editing. So the
Yes.
more writing method. So I love that you mentioned the outlining piece, because that's such a big part of writing a great book. Let's switch gears a little bit. You mentioned books that got a bunch of reviews. I've got it pulled up on Amazon at the time of recording this interview right now. 464 reviews. How'd you do it? Anything that worked well for getting reviews, or any tips that you have for people who want to get more reviews on their book?
You know the data better than this, but I believe that Amazon propagates your book more to more people once you cross over a certain review threshold. It's like YouTube likes, right? So this video is on YouTube. If this video gets 2 likes, YouTube says, oh, congratulations, that's cute, you got 2 likes. If this video gets 3,000 likes, YouTube says, people like that video. That's interesting. But there must be something to it. And YouTube it's not like YouTube watches watches the video themselves. They just say, people like that, let's show it to more people. And I believe Amazon does the same thing, where it's like, hey, people are writing good reviews about this book or engaging on this book. So we think that more people might like it. So it starts to show up higher on searches, and it starts to get recommended more and everything like that, because the audience becomes the critics, right? And so you want to, when you release your book, you want to ask for reviews, which I did. And I went to a lot of people in my community and said, listen, please give it a review. Please get a review. And if you listen to good podcasts, and I'm sure you do this on this show too, where people say like, hey, if you like what I have to say, please go to Apple iTunes, your favorite, podcast download or whatever, and write it a review. It's not because I want that for my ego, or it's not because Chandler wants you to review this show for his ego or whatever. I want you to like my YouTube video, or I want you to write a review for Raising Private Capital to stroke my ego. It's because it propagates the book through the algorithms that organizations like Amazon use, right? So what you do is, and to answer your question, I did a giveaway in the beginning when the book got released. And this is very easy for how-to books. For non-how-to books, it might be a little more difficult, but I'm sure you can figure it out. Where I said, if you read Raising Private Capital, I put it on my YouTube page and through our newsletter and on Bigger Pockets as well, and anywhere that I could say it. I said, if you write this book a review and send me a screenshot of it, I don't even care if you write it a 1-star review, it doesn't matter, just review it. If you do that, I will allow you to attend a Pick Matt's Brain free webinar. Right. Cool. So you can't incentivize for 5-star reviews. It's important to underscore that. Right. You cannot do that, but you can say, hey, if you do this for me, write my book a review, be honest, tell us what you think, and send me a screenshot. And then once a month, I held free Zoom calls, which is free advice. Pick my brain, talk real estate shop. So I give value add in exchange for. I've also seen people give away the audio version, which I couldn't do because it's Bigger Pockets' book. Yeah, since they were the publisher, I couldn't do that. But I've seen people, if you write a review for the book and send it to us, I'll send you the audio version. That's cool. So that's any incentive's fine.
That's great. Good tip. And that's something that a little bit different, but I do that with my book, Matt, and it might be helpful for your future books. Is a lot of times we'll give away audio and video in the front of the book. Now, a lot of people would say, hey, Chandler's an idiot. Like, why is he doing this? And that, if you click the look inside, you can see it, you can opt in without even getting the book. But for me, that lead for my business is worth way more than the $3 or how few bucks I'd get if they purchased the book. And so for me, it's all about turning readers into subscribers, right? And that's actually kind of what I wanted to talk about with you, less so on the subscriber piece, but how has this book grown your business? Like what business opportunities has it opened up? I mean, it's on funding, so I would assume that there's been some funding that's come from this book. Like, how's the book helped grow the business?
Well, it's like, Raising Private Capital is a book about how to raise money from your network for your real estate deals. So of course, that's what we do. We do real estate deals in partnership with passive investors. So it's pretty much the book is a how to attract people to you to give you money. And that's what we do. We, people give us passive investments for anything from an apartment building to other types of passive assets, right? So that in itself has, it's like writing a book on how to build a car, and we build cars, So the book was right in the alley of what we do. And so it's been very helpful for our business in that. And we haven't really had to, the book is not salesy. It's not, there's plenty of books out there, Chandler, that you and I have both seen that are the books like a sales pitch in disguise. That the book's just there really to sell people into your funnel. But the book, Raising Private Capital, is really, truly, this is how you do it. And obviously we mentioned the name of our company several times in that. So we're very easy to find. And I think that if you don't have to write a sales pitch in a book or write a chapter about how people can work with you or anything like that. If people want to find you, they do. And if you tell a good story in your book and then make yourself very, very, very easily Googleable, right? Then people will find you. And so our investor attraction has gone way up since Raising Private Capital was published a couple of years ago. And I think because we were just authentic about it. It's not, a book is not a pitch. It's just an authentic, this is how you do it. And, it goes unsaid that if you want to work with us, you can. That's my philosophy. I'm not a hard sales with investors, but I think that's been our model the whole time, is just, put the education out there. And if people want to find you, they do. And they have.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I always talk about give away all of your best stuff for free, and people will pay you to tell it to them again. Or in this case, give away all of your best stuff for free, and people will say, "Hey, I trust you. Can I just can I just do this with you?"
I'm sure you got more stuff. If you're giving away that good of stuff for free, I'm sure you got more you can tell me, which we do. I'm a big student of Gary Vaynerchuk, and that's a total Gary model in that, give just about everything you got for free. And if people like what you have to say, they'll find you.
Oh man, struggling on the unmute button. That's great. So I think kind of last two questions, maybe. Matt, knowing what you know now, what would be your advice to the Matt of years ago before writing your first book, and all of the other Matts out there who are thinking about writing their first book?
Anyone named Matt? Yeah. To them, I would tell, and I'd already read this book, but it's a great book, and you should try and get him on the show. I think he doesn't do that many podcasts, but I heard him on a few, and that's Stephen R. Pressfield.
He's been on. This is a great episode.
Man. Yeah. Here's a promo. There's a promo for that show. After you guys are done listening to this show,
he's a
listen
legend.
to this. Oh my goodness. So Turning Pro absolutely is the reason why I was able to get through Raising Private Capital, is because of his books of Turning Pro and The War of Art, and the third one that I can't remember the name of, but I mean, he is absolutely a great voice for creators. And so have you not read a book yet and you're looking to, they're quick reads, they're easy to flip through, listen to his podcast on this show and then read his books. He is fantastic. So I had read them, and I read them again while I was reading Raising Private Capital, because he gave me the courage and the reminder that writer's block is okay, and not knowing what to say in a moment is okay. And he gives you the tools on how to push through writer's block and really what happens on the other side of it, and there's a beautiful thing that happens on the other end of writer's block. And to give it to you quickly, feeling like I couldn't write anything, I would just start writing. And even sometimes, Chandler, I would write the words, I can't think of anything to say. And I would just write it over again. I can't think of anything to say. And then something would come, let's talk about real estate. Yeah, investing. Yeah, private lender. And before you know it, man, he talks about this in the book. You get that divine connection of my hands become his hands, and the words flow from outside of me through my head, and I become a conduit. And that's what you're striving for as an author, is to really become a conduit of information that you either have in your head or that are coming from the ether. Not to get too woo-woo here, but that's what you're driving for. And I've got to those moments many times as an author, so I think that the quick tip here is, if you're feeling writer's block or you don't feel like writing, that's a more important reason to write. And Stephen King writes for 2 hours every day, whether he feels like writing or not. You just build that muscle up. So
that's great. A question out from left field, totally unrelated to books, but related to real estate investing. So pretend you're me, or asking for a friend that may or may not be named Chandler Bolt. So wanting to do my first real estate investing deal.
Okay.
The business does really well. spits off a lot of cash. I want to we've acquired companies. We've rolled up companies into self-publishing school. So done a lot of that, like acquisition, bought my first house. Now by the end of the year, one of my goals is to do first real estate investing deal. Somewhere between don't want to dabble and don't want to bet the farm. But what would you do for your first deal to both learn the process and get the highest yield, highest return kind of investment on first real estate deal?
Assuming I'm talking to Chandler Bolt or someone just like you. And the reason why I'm saying that is, assuming you don't want to get into, like, you're not going to burn your business down and become a full-time real estate investor. Right. So if you don't want to do that, and there's probably people listening that want to invest full-time eventually, that want to build a real estate investing company as I did, right? If you do want to do that, then you need to go and buy yourself a rental property and be the hands-on manager, be the operator, find the deal, get into the scrap, find the market, use bigger pockets and read books on the whole process and get yourself dead center in the middle of it. If that's not what you want to do this thing full time, you need to invest passively, because what people don't realize is that real estate investing takes time. As much as we call it passive investing, unless you're investing in a thing that totally leverages somebody else's time, not just a property manager, but somebody who's going to manage the property manager and find the deal and approve expenses and keep the books and all that other kind of stuff. Unless you're investing with someone that's doing all that, then that's you're creating a time suck for yourself, and time will be your limiting factor. And before you know it, you're going to be calling me up going, Matt, I got to create a freaking monster here. I got 3 duplexes that I bought and I'm putting 15 hours a week into them and I don't want to. And this, it's not what I signed on for. So better advice by far is to invest passively. And you can get that on CrowdStreet. You can get it on Google. There's passive operators like myself and many others that you can find, that you can invest, small and large amount of dollars with, that will put the money to work for you in whatever vehicle they're operating. For us, it's multifamily, C-class, workforce housing, apartment buildings. That's what we do. Currently, we're going to be doing other stuff, but there's other companies out there that do everything from office buildings to oil and gas to, to retail strip centers to single family homes. They're all out there. So find an asset class that speaks to you, find a return profile that speaks to you, and then make sure that what the operator can deliver aligns with your goals with regards to return and time, meaning like how quick am I going to get my money back, how much money are you going to pay me, and everything like that. So my strong advice is to figure out, like, magic brush what you want. Okay, I want to invest for 5 years. I don't want my money back, and I'd love to make at least 10% on my money. Great, that's out there. What I just spoke is out there. Then go find it.
And those are mostly fixed return, non-equity deals, kind of like just hard money. No, lending.
You can do that, but no, you can get equity deals. The market's changing these days. I mean, things are getting more and more weird, and rates they just went up 75 basis points yesterday. Interest rates did. I mean, so the equity world is changing, and it's getting a lot more conservative with regards to the returns that it's willing to make. Back in the day, you could, tell investors you're going to make them 20% and they would believe you, even, whether the operator could or not, they were claiming 20% returns. Those returns are very far and few between these days. And you're probably more into like the low teens, in that. So I think that just be scrutinous, be a contrarian, ask a lot of questions, try and poke holes in it, try and find track record, try and find ways that the operator is put on rosy colored glasses. And most importantly, above all else, ask yourself what the worst case scenario is. You can do fixed income funds like you just said, but there's equity too. And equity is good. I prefer equity myself. And I invest as well myself in passive stuff. But I prefer, there's both. It's just that the returns that people can expect have gone down in the last couple of months.
Cool. That's great to know. And great advice. Well, hey, maybe we just lost the entire audience, or maybe the audience just sat on the front of their seat for the first time all interview. I don't know. We went from books straight into real estate investing. Matt, this has been awesome. Over.
It's okay. It's just a good chat.
Multifaceted. Though, right? Where can people go to find out more about you, what you're up to, find out about the fund, buy the book, all that good stuff?
At DeRosaGroup.com. Everything's there. Even buying a copy of my book, or reading our bio, or hearing our track record as a company, or just if you guys want to reach out to us to chat, whatever. DeRosaGroup.com, DEROSA Group, DeRosaGroup.com is our website, and everything's there.
Awesome. DeRosaGroup.com. Matt Faircloth. Appreciate you, brother.
Thank you for having me, Chandler.
Thank you so much for watching or listening to this episode of the Self-Publishing School podcast. I know there's so many places that you can be spending your time. There's other podcasts that you could be listening to, YouTube channels that you could be watching. So thank you so much. It means the world. Now, I want you to do 3 things right now if you found this episode helpful. All right, number 1, I don't know if you know this, but we've got a YouTube channel. It's a companion channel to this podcast. All the video versions of the episode are on the YouTube channel. So number 1, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Number 2, if you're listening to this podcast wherever, whether this is Spotify, Apple Podcasts, number 2, I want you to subscribe to this podcast right now so you don't miss a future episode. And then number 3, this is probably the most important, leave a review on the podcast. All right, reviews are super important and help this podcast get discovered by other people. So number 3, leave a review on the podcast. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next episode. If you're on the fence about scheduling a publishing consultation call with my team, maybe you're not quite ready for that, I've got some free training that I think will be really helpful for you. All right, all you have to do is go to register to sign up. Go to selfpublishing.com/free training. When you do, you're also going to get a free digital copy of my new book, Published. And on that training, you're going to learn the next steps of how to implement with your book. So how to write, how to publish, how to launch successfully. So go to register right now at selfpublishing.com/free training. I'll see you there.